What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, bringing you an amazing Pokemon card auctions of the week recap. Folks, I hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving. I know that I did. In today's recap, we will be covering several cards, several newly graded cards from the set Surging Sparks. We'll take a look at a lot of those prices that have done very well, and a lot of prices that are not doing very well from that set. And we will also be going over a tremendous amount of extremely high value trophy cards, some of the highest value trophy cards you're ever going to see. Stay tuned to the very end. You're not going to want to miss today's recap. After this recap, please go check out lowpopping.com, where they have a multitude of investment-worthy Pokemon card grails available for sale. On lowpopping.com, you can quickly search for and find your favorite Pokemon like Umbreon, Charizard, Pikachu. Browse through hundreds of graded cards from PSA, CGC, and BGS. They have autographed cards, graded booster packs, even Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Man, the list goes on and on. There are cards on lowpopping.com that I need for my personal collection that I can't find anywhere else. And as I always say, on lowpopping.com, you can trade for or make offers on just about anything you see. And the buy now, pay later option on cards above $1,000 is another fantastic benefit to buying on lowpopping.com. A link to their website will be in the description of this video. Folks, treat yourself right this holiday season. Go to lowpopping.com, see what they have available for sale, and pick yourself out something shiny. Alright everyone, as promised, we're going to start reviewing the graded cards from Surging Sparks. We're going to see just how well they've been doing. Here we have the Magneton from the Elite Trainer box as a PSA 10. Last week I showed you one that sold for over $600 and a bunch that were on their way through auction. This week the Magneton sold for about $355 and then again for about $390. So, boy. Certainly a far cry from the $600+ price tag we were seeing, but as usual, we'll keep an eye on this card. Here is an Alolan Executor EX in PSA 10 that sold for $237. Here is a Hydreigon Special Illustration Rare as a PSA 10 that sold for $350, and then again for $375. Here is the Milotic EX in PSA 10 that sold for $570, and then again for an even $600. Here is the ultra rare Alicia's Appeal in PSA 10 that only sold for about $105, but the special illustration rare version of this card sold for $338. And then we have this regular old Pikachu EX that sold as a PSA 10 for $414. Man, you never see these regular EX cards from these modern sets sell for this much. Man. However, the full art Pikachu's not doing quite as well this week. Here is the ultra rare Pikachu EX that sold as a PSA 10 for $340, while last week this card was selling for about $660, so almost cut in half this past week. And then of course the special illustration rare Pikachu EX was once selling for what, over $2,500. This week we saw a dramatic decrease in value. Here's a PSA 10 that sold for $1,675. Another one that sold for $1,496. And as of right now, this card is a buy it now for about $1,798. So I think the days of this card being over $2,000 is gone, at least for the time being. In this hobby, you never know what's gonna, fly back up to the moon, but as of right now, this card is hovering at about $1,400 to $1,500. But the sealed product has not been staggering this week. Here is a sealed case of Surging Sparks booster boxes that sold for $1,150, and another case that sold for $1,225. So, not too bad there. Speaking of Pikachu, we have the Pikachu Van Gogh promo card as a PSA 10, sold this week for $404. Here is the Alt Art Gengar and Mimikyu GX from Team Up that sold this week for $908. And then here is the Alt Art Gengar from Fusion Strike that sold this week as a PSA 10 for $870. Here is a Leafeon VMAX from Evolving Skies that sold as a PSA 10 for $380. However, we did see a BGS 10 black label of this card come by, in which it sold for $3,210. Here we have a black label Japanese Charizard EX that sold for $2,550. Here we have what might be a new record price for this card as a PSA 10. It is the Latios GX alt art from Team Up that sold in auction for $3,500 this week. Here is a BGS 10 black label 2018 Japanese Champions League Umbreon GX that sold for $4,150. On to the vintage cards on eBay. Here we have a PSA 10 Cardass Prism Charizard card that sold for $6,050. Here we have a CGC 10 Gem Mint 4th print Charizard from base set that sold for $4,256. And 4th print is another way of saying 1999 to 2000, which is on the bottom of this card, which is what makes it the 4th print. Here is an unlimited Vaporeon holo from Jungle that sold as a PSA 10 for $1,555. And even though this card was very available back in the day, not only could you have pulled it out of booster packs, but it was also in the theme decks, it is still a particularly hard card to grade, which is why it still goes for over $1,500. From Fossil Set, we have this first edition Gengar holo as a PSA 10 that sold for $4,950. Almost a $5,000 Gengar right here, folks. Here from Neo Genesis is a first edition Feraligatr. This is the Feraligatr number 5 that sold as a PSA 10 for $4,061. Another very difficult card to grade from Neo Genesis. Speaking of difficult cards to grade, here is the CGC 10 Gem Mint first edition Lugia that sold for $4,209 this week. Here from Neo Revelation was another Shining Magikarp in first edition that sold for $2,550. And then we have several EX cards from the earlier EX era. Here's a Politoed from Unseen Forces that sold for $740. Here is a Gardevoir EX that sold for $923. Here is a Black Star promo Zapdos EX that sold for $1,160, along with this Ho-Oh EX, also from Unseen Forces, that sold for $1,200. Here's a Vaporeon EX that sold for $1,725, and this Blaziken EX that sold for $2,375. Here is a Black Star promo Rayquaza EX that sold for $3,051, and this Milotic EX from Emerald that sold for an even $4K. From Diamond and Pearl Stormfront, we saw this PSA 10 Secret Rare Charmander holo that sold for $1,405. Here is a CGC 10 Gold Star Latios that sold for $4,800. Here is an HR contest winner Japanese Charizard VMAX as a BGS 10 Pristine that sold for $7,201. Here is a 2009 PSA 9 Victory Cup promo card that sold for $9,511. Here is a 30,000 point Japanese Gold Star Flareon promo that sold for 8,183 big ones. Along with this insane PSA 9 Japanese Gold Star Espeon 50,000 point promo card that sold for a whopping $21,200 this week. On to a couple interesting pieces of sealed product. Here is a lot of 12 Sword and Shield booster boxes, including the Evolving Skies box that sold for an even $3,000. Here we have an XY Phantom Forces booster box that sold for $2,500. A Sun and Moon Team Up booster box that sold for $3,296 US. Here is a Black and White Next Destinies booster box that sold for $3,363 US. And then lastly on eBay, we have this lot of 4 booster packs from Legendary Collection. Each of the pack arts sold for a total of $5,500 for 4 booster packs. A couple of interesting sales on alt this week. Here is a CGC 9 Delta playtest Ivysaur that sold for $8,626, while the CGC 9 Delta Bulbasaur playtest card sold for $13,800. And the CGC 10 Squirtle Delta playtest card didn't do quite as well as the Bulbasaur, but still sold for $7,718 this week. And then here is an Alpha Presentation Pikachu that sold as the CGC8 for $14,741. And then on to a couple of very noteworthy sales on Fanatics Collect. Here is a PSA 10 First Edition Blaine's Charizard, sold for $3,840, while the Charizard from EX Crystal Guardians sold for $4,080. Here we have the 2016 20th Anniversary Festa Pikachu card that sold for $7,500. Here is a PSA 10 Glossy Bilingual Executor card, where the autograph also got a PSA 10 and sold for $8,100 this week. And then here is the PSA 10 25th Anniversary Japanese Corporate History Chansey that sold for $32,400. On to the Fanatics Collect monthly premiere auction. We have a CGC 9.5 First Appearance Lugia that sold for $8,400. And then we saw several very old, very expensive Japanese promo cards, trophy cards. Here is a 2002 Japanese promo Spring Battle Road number 3 trainer card in PSA 8 that sold for $20,100, while this number 2 trainer card as a PSA 9 sold for $30,600. Here is a 2015 Art Academy Mudkip card that sold as a PSA 10 for $42,000. Here is another Spring Battle Road promo card. This is the number 1 trainer card as a PSA 10 that sold for $48,000. And if those prices didn't make your head spin, these will. Here is a 1999 Japanese promo Secret Super Battle number 2 trainer card in PSA 9 that sold for $78,000. Here is a PSA 9 1998 Japanese promo 3rd tournament Silver 2nd trophy promo card featuring Pikachu that sold for $150,000. And then here is the gold first place trophy Pikachu card that sold for $168,000. And then the auction of the week would have to go to this 1998 PSA 10 Japanese promo 3rd tournament bronze 3rd trophy Pikachu card that sold as a Pop 1 card, Pop 1 PSA 10 for $324,000. Man, those numbers make my head spin. How about you? What do you think of these trophy cards? What do you think of this auction recap? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. I really appreciate you tuning in each and every week, folks. Thanks again. I'll catch you in my next one.